Not good enough for his family. I knew from the moment I stepped into their grand, cold mansion that they would never accept me. His mother, Charlotte Harrington, with her pearls and icy blue eyes, looked me up and down like I was dirt under her designer heels. His father, Richard, barely acknowledged my existence. And his sister, Madison? She sneered, whispering something under her breath that made their cousin, Rachel, giggle. I wasn't one of them. I was just a girl from a middle-class family with student loans and a dream of making it in marketing. Meanwhile, my fiancé Ethan was a Harrington, a last name that meant something in their world of old money and country clubs. So I loved him. And I thought he loved me. Ethan squeezed my hand as we stood in the grand dining room, its chandelier casting a harsh glow over the long oak table. "Mom, Dad," he said, forcing a smile. "This is Olivia. The woman I'm going to marry." Silence. Then Charlotte sighed dramatically, setting down her champagne flute. "Ethan, darling, let's be rational. We don't even know this girl." I opened my mouth to speak, but she held up a perfectly manicured hand. "And you? What do you even do for a living?" I swallowed. "I work in marketing." She arched a brow. "How quaint." Ethan stiffened. "Mom, stop." Richard, his father, finally spoke. "Son, you need to be smart. Marriage isn't just about love. It's about building a legacy. And I'm sorry, but Olivia," his gaze flicked to me, full of barely hidden disdain, "she doesn't fit." They treated me like a gold digger despite the fact that I had never once asked Ethan for a dime. In their eyes, I wasn't worthy. But Ethan stood by me. Or so I thought. The betrayal. For a while it seemed like we were winning. Ethan and I got married in a small ceremony, against his family's wishes. He told me their opinions didn't matter. That he loved me, not their approval. I believed him. But everything changed when I got pregnant. That's when the real manipulation started. It began with small things. His mother insisting on private paternity tests behind my back. His sister whispering poison into his ear. Things like, "Are you sure the baby's even yours?" Then came the staged proof. Fake text messages. Photos that had clearly been altered. Lies stacked upon lies until Ethan began to doubt me. One night when I was 5 months pregnant, he came home with a look I had never seen before. Cold, detached. "I know the truth," he said, throwing a folder onto the table. "You've been lying to me this whole time." I frowned, heart pounding as I picked up the papers. Photos of me with another man, except it wasn't me. The hair was similar, but the face was off, the details blurred. A cheap trick, but one he wanted to believe. "Ethan, this is fake," I whispered. "Don't lie to me," he snapped. "You played me, Olivia. And I won't raise another man's child." Tears burned my eyes. "Ethan, please, you know me. I would never." "Get out." His voice was stone. "Now." I stared at him, waiting for him to take it back. For some sign that this was just a horrible mistake. But he only turned away. And just like that, I was homeless. Alone. 5 months pregnant. And they had one. Starting over. I don't remember leaving. One moment I was standing in our living room, my hands shaking, my heart pounding. The next I was on the street, gripping a small suitcase, the bitter night air cutting through my thin sweater. I had nowhere to go. No one to call. Ethan had been my whole world. I had distanced myself from old friends, thinking I didn't need anyone else. My parents had passed years ago, leaving me with no family to turn to. For hours I wandered, my mind numb. My feet ached, my stomach twisted in fear. Then, just as exhaustion threatened to pull me under, I remembered an old college friend, Sophie. We hadn't spoken in years, but I had nowhere else to turn. With shaking hands I dialed her number. "Olivia?" she answered, groggy and confused. The moment I heard her voice, the dam inside me broke. I sobbed, barely able to get the words out. "I need help." Rebuilding from nothing, Sophie took me in without question. She lived in a tiny apartment, barely big enough for herself, but she made room for me. For the first time in weeks I felt safe. "I can't believe Ethan did this to you," she fumed as she made me tea. "And over some photos? Are you kidding me?" I shrugged, my eyes hollow. He wanted to believe them. Because deep down Ethan had never truly seen me as his equal. The days after Ethan kicked me out were a blur. Sophie had saved me, no doubt about that. But even with a roof over my head I felt hollow inside. I would wake up in the middle of the night, reaching for Ethan, only to remember he wasn't there. That he had turned his back on me. on us. But I didn't have the luxury of falling apart. I was pregnant. I had to survive, for my baby. Sophie was my rock. She made sure I ate, reminded me to sleep, and even helped me update my resume so I could find work. Marketing jobs are everywhere, she assured me, scrolling through listings on her laptop. You just need something remote. Something flexible. I stared at the screen, my mind foggy. I had always been ambitious, driven. But now, I felt like a shell of myself. So I had no choice. Within 2 weeks, I landed a freelance marketing gig. It wasn't much, just enough to cover groceries and save a little for an apartment of my own. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. And for the first time since Ethan had thrown me out, I felt the tiniest spark of hope. The Harringtons' next move. One evening, as I sat curled up on Sophie's couch, scrolling through apartment listings, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. My stomach twisted. I had a feeling I knew exactly who it was. I hesitated before answering. Hello. Boss. Olivia. Charlotte Harrington's voice was as cold as ever. I gripped the phone tighter. What do you want? She sighed as if I were exhausting her. I wanted to check in. See how you're managing. I nearly laughed. Managing? Like I was some charity case she had tossed aside. I'm fine, I said through gritted teeth. Are you? She mused. Because from what I hear, you're living with a friend in a one-bedroom apartment. Hardly the life my grandchild deserves. I went rigid. What? We could help you, Olivia, she continued smoothly. Set you up in a proper home. Make sure you and the baby have everything you need. I clenched my jaw. And what would that cost me? Charlotte chuckled. So suspicious. I simply think the child should be raised properly. Ethan might not want you, but he is the father. And we have resources that you simply don't. Anger burned through me. She thought she could buy me off? That I would hand over my baby just because she had money? I took a slow breath, steadying myself. You'll never see my child, I said, my voice deadly calm. Stay away from us. And then I hung up. My hands were shaking. Because deep down I knew, this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Fighting for my future. I should have known Charlotte wouldn't take no for an answer. A week after her call, I received a letter in the mail. A thick, expensive-looking envelope with gold embossing. Harrington and Company, attorneys at law. My blood ran cold. I tore it open, my heart hammering in my chest. My eyes scanned the first few lines, but my vision blurred with panic. Petition for paternity test and custody rights. A lump formed in my throat. I forced myself to read every single word. The Harringtons were demanding a court-mandated paternity test. If the baby was Ethan's, and of course they wanted partial custody. They were trying to take my child before he was even born. I gripped the paper so tightly my knuckles turned white. No, I whispered. No way. But how was I supposed to fight them? They had money, lawyers, power. I was just a pregnant woman living paycheck to paycheck. I felt a hand on my shoulder. Sophie had been reading over my shoulder, her face twisted with fury. Oh hell no, she snapped. You are not letting them do this. I swallowed hard. I don't think I have a choice. The hell you don't. He grabbed my phone and shoved it into my hands. We're getting you a lawyer. Right now. The legal battle begins. I never imagined I'd spend my pregnancy fighting a legal battle, but here I was, sitting across from a lawyer in a tiny office that smelled like old books and coffee. Her name was Laura Hayes. She was sharp, tough, and, thankfully, willing to work with me on a payment plan. She skimmed through the papers, her brow furrowing. They're trying to intimidate you, she said, flipping the page. They know you don't have the resources to fight them. But here's the thing. Family courts don't just hand babies over to rich people. But Ethan is the father, I said quietly. And his family can afford the best lawyers. Laura leaned forward. Listen to me, Olivia. You're the mother. You have full custody by default. The only way they can take that from you is if they prove you're an unfit parent. I exhaled shakily. And they're going to try, aren't they? Laura nodded. They'll dig into your finances, your living situation, anything they can find. They'll try to make you look unstable. A wave of nausea rolled through me. I placed a protective hand over my belly. I won't let them take him, I whispered. Laura's gaze softened. Then let's fight. Ethan shows up. 2 months later, I was 6 months pregnant and exhausted. The legal battle was draining me and I still had to work every day just to make ends meet. Then one evening as I stepped out of my apartment I saw him, Ethan, standing by my car, hands shoved in his pockets, looking like he hadn't slept in weeks. For a second my heart ached. But then I remembered, he had chosen to believe his family over me. I straightened my shoulders. What are you doing here? He ran a hand through his messy hair. Olivia, I just want to talk. I crossed my arms. You're a little late for that. He exhaled. I know. And I'm sorry. But I didn't know what my family was doing. I swear. I laughed bitterly. You didn't know? And they lied to you. They faked evidence and you kicked me out like I was nothing. And now you're taking me to court. Guilt flashed across his face. I never wanted that. My mother. Your mother is a manipulative snake. He flinched but didn't argue. Instead he took a slow breath. I want to fix this. I want to be in our son's life. I shook my head. You lost that chance when you threw me out. For the first time I saw real panic in his eyes. Olivia, please. Don't shut me out. I met his gaze, my voice ice cold. I don't owe you anything. And then I walked away. But I knew this wasn't over. Not yet. The fight gets uglier. After Ethan's unexpected visit, I felt like a storm was brewing. I wasn't wrong. A week later I got a call from Laura. We have a problem, she said grimly. The Harringtons just filed an emergency motion for temporary custody once the baby is born. I nearly dropped my phone. What? How is that even possible? They're claiming you're financially unstable and that the baby would have a better quality of life with them. My stomach churned. But I have a job. I have a home. They're also saying you're emotionally volatile and unfit to raise a child alone. I let out a humorless laugh. Let me guess, because I don't want to take Ethan back? Laura sighed. It's a weak case, Olivia. But they're trying to drag you through hell so you'll break. I clenched my jaw. Then we'll fight. They try to set me up. The next few weeks were a nightmare. I started noticing things. People watching me when I left my apartment, a man I didn't recognize snapping photos of me at the grocery store. Then came the mysterious complaint to Child Protective Services. A social worker showed up at my door one afternoon. She was polite but firm, explaining that there had been a report that I was engaging in reckless behavior while pregnant. I stared at her, stunned. That's a lie. She nodded. It usually is. But we have to follow up. Sophie was there fuming. Let me guess. Was the report anonymous? The social worker hesitated. I can't disclose that. Of course. I cooperated fully, knowing I had nothing to hide. But the visit rattled me. Charlotte and the Harringtons were trying to make me look unstable. Trying to create a paper trail they could use against me in court. I refused to let them win. The court date arrives. By the time my court date arrived, I was 8 months pregnant, exhausted and furious. I sat beside Laura, my hands folded in my lap as we faced off against Ethan and his family. Charlotte sat primly in her expensive suit, her expression smug. Ethan, on the other hand, looked miserable. I barely glanced at him. Their lawyer launched into a speech about how the Harringtons could provide a stable and privileged upbringing for my child. How I was struggling financially. How I had refused Ethan's help. Then Laura stood. Your Honor, my client is employed, housed, and has never demonstrated unfit behavior. What the Harringtons are doing is weaponizing wealth. They believe they can buy a child, but this court does not operate that way. The judge listened intently, occasionally glancing at me. Then it was my turn to speak. I stood, my legs shaking. I looked straight at the judge and said, Your Honor, I love my son. I may not be rich, but I can give him a real home. A loving home. And no amount of money can replace that. Silence. Then the judge looked at the Harringtons and said the words that made my heart soar. Temporary custody denied. Charlotte's face twisted in rage. Ethan exhaled, looking almost relieved. Me. I had won. For now. The aftermath of the court battle. I walked out of that courtroom victorious, but I knew the war wasn't over. Charlotte Harrington did not lose gracefully. The very next day an article appeared in a high-profile gossip column. Scandal in the Harrington family. Billionaire's heir trapped in a custody battle with ex-fiancé. I felt my stomach drop as I read through the piece. They painted me as a manipulative gold digger who had tricked Ethan into fatherhood. They called me unstable, jobless, and desperate. The article even had paparazzi photos. One of me looking exhausted outside the courthouse, another of Sophie helping me into my car. It was a full-blown smear campaign. I slammed my phone down, my pulse racing. Sophie, reading over my shoulder, let out a string of curses. "They're trying to destroy your reputation." My hands shook. "And they're doing a damn good job of it." Within hours, my inbox flooded with hate messages. Strangers calling me names, accusing me of using my baby to trap a rich man. The Harringtons were making sure I paid for winning in court. I knew I had to fight back. Ethan's confession. I was preparing a statement with Laura when my phone buzzed with a text. "Ethan, I need to see you. Please." I stared at the screen. I should have ignored it. But something in my gut told me to hear him out. That evening I met him at a quiet cafe. He looked awful, dark circles under his eyes, his usual confidence replaced by guilt. "I didn't know about the article," he said immediately. "I swear." "My mother." I scoffed. "Your mother is a monster. And you let her do this." He flinched. "I tried to stop her. Olivia. I don't have control over her." I folded my arms. "That's your problem. Not mine." He ran a hand through his hair. "You're right. And that's why I need to tell you something." I narrowed my eyes. "What?" He exhaled. "I found out the truth." A cold chill ran down my spine. "What truth?" He looked me dead in the eye. "My mother faked the photos." I went still. "I confronted her after court," he continued. "She admitted it, said she had to protect me from a mistake." His voice cracked. "She destroyed our family, Olivia. She lied to me. And I was too stupid to see it." I felt dizzy. I had known the Harringtons had set me up. But hearing Ethan say it out loud, it reopened every wound. "I'm so sorry," he whispered. "I should have believed you. I should have fought for you." I clenched my fists. "Too little, too late." He swallowed. "I know. Olivia. I still love you." My heart twisted. But I wouldn't let myself fall for his regret. "You don't get to love me now," I said quietly. "Not after what you did." I grabbed my coat and stood. And for the first time I walked away from him. But I had no idea the biggest storm was still coming. The final betrayal. I thought that after Ethan's confession things would settle. I was wrong. 2 weeks later, just as I was preparing for my due date, Laura called me in a panic. "You need to get to my office. Now." I barely had time to process before I was in a cab, my heart racing the entire ride. When I got there, she had a file sitting on her desk, her face grim. "They're making a final move," she said, pushing the papers toward me. I scanned the document, my breath hitching. "Petition for full custody, filed by Ethan Harrington." I felt like the air had been sucked from my lungs. My voice came out hollow. "What?" Laura rubbed her temples. "He's claiming he's the more stable parent and should have full custody once the baby is born." I slammed the papers down. "That lying, he knows what his family did to me. He knows I didn't cheat." "I know," she said, her tone sharp. "But that doesn't change the fact that he's taking legal action. And with the Harringtons funding this case, it's serious." I pressed a shaking hand to my belly. "My baby. My son. I wasn't going to let them take him. I want to fight," I whispered. "No matter what it takes." Laura nodded. "Then let's destroy them." The fight of my life. The weeks leading up to my son's birth were brutal. The Harringtons had everything: high-powered lawyers, media influence, money. They spread more lies about me in the press, painting Ethan as the devoted father fighting for his child. They tried to have me declared unfit due to emotional distress. They even had a private investigator following me, trying to catch anything they could use against me. But they underestimated me. Laura was relentless. She gathered everything: proof of their smear campaigns, Ethan's confession about the faked evidence, statements from Sophie about the CPS setup. We built a case against them. And then, just when things seemed at their worst, I went into labor. The day everything changed. I barely remember getting to the hospital. It was all a blur of pain and panic. Sophie was with me the entire time, holding my hand, whispering words of encouragement. And then, a sharp cry filled the room. Tears flooded my eyes as the doctor placed my son in my arms. He was perfect. I sobbed, pressing a kiss to his tiny forehead. But before I could even catch my breath, the nurse stiffened. There's someone outside demanding to see you, she said. He says he's the father. My blood ran cold. Ethan. He was here. And I knew this was the moment that would decide everything. The final showdown. I gripped my son tighter, my heartbeat thundering in my ears. The nurse gave me a cautious look. Do you want me to send him away? I took a shaky breath. No. Let him in. Sophie shot me a sharp glance. Liv, are you sure? I nodded. It's time to end this. A moment later, the door swung open. Ethan stepped inside, looking like he hadn't slept in days. His clothes were wrinkled, his hair a mess, and his expression was unreadable. His eyes landed on our son, and for a second I saw something raw flash across his face. But I wasn't here for his emotions. I was here to protect my child. I straightened my spine. What do you want, Ethan? He hesitated, then exhaled. I want to see him. I swallowed hard, my arms instinctively tightening around my baby. You don't get to want things, Ethan. Not after what you did. He ran a hand through his hair. I made a mistake. A mistake. I let out a bitter laugh. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. A mistake is losing your keys. You abandoned me. You humiliated me. And now you're trying to steal my child. He flinched. That's not what I... Then why did you file for full custody? My voice cracked. Why are you still letting your family ruin my life? He exhaled sharply. I didn't file that petition. I froze. What? My mother did, he admitted. Behind my back. I blinked, my brain scrambling to process his words. She forged my signature, he continued. I only found out when Laura's team started pushing back with evidence. When I confronted her, she admitted it. She said I was too weak to do what needed to be done. My stomach twisted. And what was that, Ethan? Taking my baby away from me. He looked at me, his eyes tormented. I don't want to take him from you, Olivia. I swear. I shook my head. I don't believe you. He swallowed hard. I've been fighting my mother ever since I found out. That's why I came here. To tell you. He took a shaky breath. I dropped the case. The custody petition is gone. Silence stretched between us. I searched his face for any sign of a lie, but for the first time in a long time I saw something real. Regret. Pain. Love. But it didn't matter. Because love wasn't enough. I took a deep breath. I'm glad you finally did the right thing. But Ethan, this changes nothing. His face fell. I will never trust you again, I whispered. I will never let you hurt me or my son. If you truly love him, prove it. Be better. And stay the hell away from your family. He nodded slowly, his throat bobbing as he swallowed. I will. I didn't say anything else. I just turned away and pressed a kiss to my son's forehead, letting Ethan make the choice for himself. When I finally looked up, he was gone. 1 year later. The past year had been a blur. Being a single mom was hard, but every second had been worth it. My son, my beautiful, happy, perfect boy, was thriving. Me. I was finally free. The Harringtons had tried to control my life, but they failed. I had won full custody, I had built a new future, and I had found peace. As for Ethan, he kept his word. He cut ties with his family, got therapy, and slowly earned back a place in his son's life. I didn't forgive him overnight. But I did let him try. Because at the end of the day, this wasn't about us. It was about giving my son the love he deserved. And that was the only happy ending I needed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more incredible content.